All right. Well, thank you for coming out to see me. I know it's the end of the season. I don't usually do the presentations this late in the season because all the snowbirds have gone home. So I guess you guys, how many of you here are snowbirds versus living here permanently? How many people do not live here permanently? Ah, that explains it. Now I understand. Okay. All right. So is anybody in this room not seen me before? Just a couple. Good. All right. Well, my name is Carey Holzman. I've been a computer technician or working professionally as a computer technician for about 25 years. And I've worked at places like Intel and SRP and APS, and then finally struck out on my own and have been self-employed since the mid-90s. And not only has the technology evolved since then, so have I in my business and what I focus on. Initially was doing a lot of PC repairs. Now I do a lot of YouTube videos to reach a greater, wider audience and try and make the complicated easy to understand, easily digestible. I mean, I can't make you interested in it. I can't make you motivated to want to learn it. But if you do want to learn it, I do believe I can teach it to anybody who wants to learn it. It's not an age thing, and it really bothers me if people go, well, I'm too old to learn that. That's up here. A lot of this stuff, in some ways, being older is a benefit to learning, because the kids today, for example, when you're going to send an email out to somebody and you hit the CC button, kids today don't know what that means. Carbon copy. I mean, they might tell you it means carbon copy, but if you ask a 12-year-old what is a carbon copy, they'll say that's that thing when you want to copy somebody on an email. It's true. I had I was over at a friend's house, and they had a nephew. I think he was 10 or 12. I don't know how old he was. A young kid. And he was playing YouTube videos from his smartphone on the TV. Now the kid, it was a brand new TV. The guy who set up the TV is not a computer guy. The kid had never been to the house with the TV before. And I said to the kid, how are you playing those YouTube videos from your phone onto this television? And he says, oh, I just download the YouTube app. Okay, but how does the YouTube app know to play on that TV and not my TV or somebody else's TV? Well, I just download the YouTube. You just go here and you download it. He didn't know how it worked. He could not explain it. And then what I learned was when you go to the TV, the smart TVs, it's connected to the router, the wireless router. And if you say you want to connect it to YouTube, it says log into your YouTube account and add this ID to your YouTube account as a playback device. So it's a weird number, looks like a license plate number, like XY224, whatever. And then when you do that, when you go to play back your YouTube videos, whether it's on a laptop or a smartphone, you can say, I want to play this back on one of my playback devices, and all the TVs that you registered as playback devices will appear. And you could say living room TV, bedroom TV, you can name them. So because it was only one TV, he just said play back to this TV, and the TV came up with the code, he punched the code in, and then YouTube played the video right on the television. But he couldn't explain it to me. So here I thought, how does this 12-year-old kid know something I don't know, which is happening more and more as I get older. And then when I asked him to explain it, you download this and you push this button. So even he didn't understand how it worked, only that this is what you did to make it work. Now, there's something to be said about that. I don't think you have to be a computer technician to understand basic computer maintenance and doing things to secure your privacy and just security in general to follow some simple steps, even if you don't quite understand them. You can at least know, for example, when you watch a cooking show and they tell you to put the yeast in the flour and the water and the salt and it's going to make bread, it's going to rise. They do not explain to you the chemical process that creates the rising effect. They simply state that if the dough does not rise, you either put too much or too little of an ingredient. You did a step incorrectly. They don't get into the chemistry of it. And I try and follow that same attitude or approach when it comes to explaining computer technology. So one of my favorite examples, and those of you who've seen me before have heard me say this time and again because it is one of my favorite examples, is when a customer calls me and says, I think I have a virus. I say, okay. Why do you think you have a virus? Because this is happening and that's happening. And But I don't understand how I could have a virus because I've got XYZ antivirus. I've got Norton, I've got McAfee. So how could I have a virus if I've got antivirus? And I say, well, if you put yourself in my shoes, what I'm hearing is, I just got into a car accident, but I drive a Volvo. How is that possible? I've got pesticide, yet the cockroaches are still coming in. Basically, and then that's another example. People will say, well, if I have a firewall, why do I need antivirus? Aren't they the same thing? Or if I've got antivirus, why do we need a firewall? So again, I'm going to take something you already know. I'm going to use an analogy. So if you've got a burglar alarm, why do you need pesticide? If you've got pesticide, why do you need a burglar alarm? Pesticide keeps out the pests. Burglar alarm keeps out the pests. Different kind of pest. And then people often say, well, why hasn't anybody ever explained it to me like that before? Now that's a question I can't answer, because to me, that's how I wish somebody would have explained it to me when I was learning this stuff. And that's how I choose to explain it when I'm up here. Now what I like to do, rather than have an agenda, first of all, I'm not here to sell you anything. I do computer repair. I have business cards. If you want a business card, take it. If you don't, don't. It's not why I'm here. I'm here to address what's on your mind, what questions you have, what frustrations you have, what you've always wanted to know, and I will do my best to answer your question. And that way I'm not wasting my time talking about something none of you are interested in. And chances are whatever question you are brave enough to ask, somebody else in this room was also wondering the answer to that and either didn't think to ask or wasn't as brave as you to ask it. So be brave and ask your question. I will say those of you who participate in this will enjoy it more than those who are just spectators. Not that spectators won't enjoy it. Now, I did receive an email. I guess there's been a lot of discussion about Windows 10 lately, about does this, does it do that? And I'll say to all of you what I said in the email, which is it's too early to answer any questions about Windows 10. It's still cooking. I don't know how it's going to taste until it's done. So anybody who voluntarily installs it now, their job is to find and report problems to Microsoft. They're the pioneers. Let them do that. Hopefully Microsoft will be able to recreate those errors and address them before the final product ships. Now Microsoft has changed things several times in Windows 10 since the beta began. The start menu's changed 3 times, at least. It may change again. So it's too early to start talking about what problems Windows 10 has, because we don't know what the final version is actually going to be, what issues are going to arise from it. And usually, the old rule of thumb with an operating system was that you wait a year for them to work out the bugs. I still think you should wait a year, but not to work out bugs. What you're waiting the year for is for all of your hardware and software that you use on your computer, for those companies to support Windows 10. You may have an all-in-one printer, and you may not be able to find the driver for it for Windows 10. Within a year's time, if the driver has not come out, you're going to have to buy a new printer. On the other hand, that may take 6 months after Windows comes out for that driver to be available. So you're still what's called an early adopter if you're going to install Windows 10 before fall of 2016. In other words, a year from its release date. So it's going to be released this fall, this coming fall, or late July, whatever it's going to be. I would wait, if it was me, I'd let other people be the pioneers. And then when you're having a problem, you should be able to Google that problem and find answers to other people who had that problem earlier on from those pioneers, so you're not reinventing the wheel all over again. So that's my advice on that. Now, on the other hand, if you're a tinkerer and you like to play and you like to be that pioneer, just set your expectations accordingly. If there is a reason to even get Windows 10, I don't know what that reason is yet. I don't know what Windows 10 can do that Windows 8 or Windows 7, or for that matter, Windows XP doesn't already do. I hope none of you are still running Windows XP. Anybody running Windows XP? It is a huge security risk to continue to run that operating system. There's no more updates since April, last April, but April 2014. And every day it becomes a bigger target to identity thieves, hackers, etc. What I've got on the screen behind me is another thing I do now, which is investigative journalism and dealing with a lot of the scams that are occurring on the internet, and there's every day is a new one. This one was particularly offensive to me because my brother in California received an invoice for a service he never ordered, coming from a business based in Phoenix. So he thought it was something related to me because I take care of his computers. He said, "Do I pay this thing?" No, it's not real. And it doesn't have any of the typical signs that traditional scams have, which is bad grammar, poor spelling. Everything in this was legit, and this aired tonight on ABC 15. Some of you saw it. I was in the car driving here, so I haven't even seen it yet. But really proud that this got the media's attention because these letters were sent, these invoices were sent to small businesses across the entire United States based out of an address in Phoenix. And the way the scam works is very clever. It's kind of a scam within a scam. There's a company that rents, they rent highly desirable real estate. So the Biltmore area in Phoenix is very exclusive. I can barely afford to park my car there when I went to visit them. So I can't afford an office there, but I can, because this company named Regis, they have offices in the UK and throughout the United States where they will rent you the address, just like a mailbox store. And what's amazing to me is when you Google the address, and this is very important, when you see a bill that you don't recognize, Google the address. This pulled up over 200 companies using that address on Google. And when I called, some of these companies were respectable law firms. I said, "Are you aware that you are sharing your address with real estate agents, process servers, and even competitive law firms as your Phoenix location on your website?" They said, "No, we weren't aware of that." And I said, "Well, don't take my word for it. When you have a minute, Google your own address." You see, these companies will make it appear that this is our Phoenix location, this is our Houston location, this is our Beverly Hills location. And they're not actually located there. They're virtual offices. And there's no laws regarding virtual space. How many people can occupy a virtual space at one time? There's no law. And I brought this up to Joe Ducey at ABC 15, and he interviewed me on it, and he did his own investigative story into it. But again, what hit home is that it was a Phoenix Biltmore address going out across the United States. And the invoice said, checks or money orders only. And I did a Yelp review, and I saw other people receive this invoice, claim they didn't order this service. The service looks legit. But when they send an invoice as a marketing material, it needs to say boldly, "This is not an invoice." And the US Postal Code actually has rules, and they violated those rules by sending this out. So it's very questionable when they say you have a money-back guarantee, but you got to send a check or a money order. And I jokingly put on Yelp, somebody should print out a fake check and mail it to them, because that's the only way you can burn them. They'll deposit the check, they'll get a fee from their bank, and they'll have no repercussions because you will have hidden yourself as well as they have hidden themselves. And then somebody did it and took a picture of it, of a fake check, and posted it on Yelp and said, mailed it to them. And I said, uh-oh. I didn't actually think anybody would do it. Yelp is a great resource, not just for restaurant reviews, but also when you do see things that are suspicious. And one of the things that, while I'm on this topic, is people will say, I get a call. So I'm having problems with my Dell computer. How long ago did you buy it? 4 months ago. All right, you're still under warranty, call Dell. There's no sense paying me when you can get the service for free. It's in your warranty. So what do? They Google Dell support. And what comes up? A bunch of fake places claiming to be Dell support or Quicken support. And here's what's interesting. One of these, see, I'm all turned around. One of these companies has a phone number here. So if you're going to use Google to look up particularly any kind of support, whether it's Microsoft or Google, Intuit, Google the phone number before you call it. So this one came up as 866-441-4509. That's the phone number. And the internet here is a little bit slow. And what will eventually pop up is a long list of support companies all sharing that phone number. It's really just the same guy answering the phone. And it's for Intuit, and it's for Google, and it's for Hotmail, and it's a one-stop give us your credit card shop. So, okay, it's not going to cooperate with us. But you can take my word for it. When you are going to Google for computer support and the address and the phone number come up, Google that phone number and make sure that it's associated. Look at this. So the first few say Gmail, right? And as we scroll down, we have Avast, Safari browser support, more Gmail. Let's go to the next page. I think Dell is in there, Microsoft is in there, Intuit. A lot of people don't even realize they're talking to fake support until they go, we need $500 to fix this. And they go, oh, wait a minute. And then when you say, wait a minute, then they get rude and nasty oftentimes. And if you've already given them remote access, they'll start deleting things off of your computer. And at that point, you either need to shut the computer off or unplug your internet connection as quickly as possible to mitigate the damage. Now, that's the fun stuff. Before I move on to the next topic, does anybody have any questions about anything tech related? Okay, so if I'm talking about stuff you're not interested in, it's your fault. I'm warning you, it's not me. Okay.
Is there any way to get rid of all those pop-up telephone numbers for those techies?
You have to do your research. If you're going to use a search engine, it doesn't matter if it's Bing or it's Google or Yahoo. When you do your research, you can't just stop at the first result. The best thing you can do is to Google that phone number and make sure that it connects you to the company that you're looking for. So if I actually Google Intuit support number, it'll come up as Intuit support. It won't come up with a list of 18 different companies or 300 different companies. I did a video. Here's what happened. Customer call. I know I told this story last time, but for those of you who didn't hear it, I had a customer call me and say, I just got a call. The guy said my computer has a virus and it's one that antivirus can't detect. What do I do? And I said, and I'm going to tell you, you guys should do the same thing. You say, my husband or my son does this. I don't deal with the computer stuff. He does it. His name is Carey, and his phone number, and you take my card and give him my phone number. If you don't do that, if you say, you guys are, I heard about you guys, you're criminals, you're crooks, is your mom proud of what you do? They'll just keep calling you back. But my video has embarrassed them in such a way that most of them know who I am. And if they don't, they don't want to. Because I have a video for 90 minutes where I kept this guy on the phone pretending to be the average user asking questions. And ultimately told the guy that everything was being recorded and that I was with the FTC. He's lying to me. I can lie to him. And then he hung up. But I kept him on for about 90 minutes, so he couldn't try and bilk anybody out of their hard-earned money. Now, here's the thing. A lot of these internet scams, they come out of Ghana in Africa. It's a little country called Ghana. They have high-speed, probably the best internet in Africa is in Ghana, Ghana. It's a very poor country. They're doing everything they can to survive there. And they have something called Sakawa, S-A-K-A-W-A, Sakawa. When you see a young man driving a nice car in Ghana, he is probably Sakawa. He is admired, he's looked up to. There's no sense of guilt that they stole from you. They figure if you're stupid enough, this is the way they think, you're stupid enough, you deserve it. There's no guilt. So you shouldn't feel any guilt hanging up on them if they call you. Nobody will ever call you legitimately and tell you your computer has a virus. There's no way to tie your computer to your phone number. Not today. I get emails constantly. I had one, interestingly enough, I had from claiming to be from General Car Insurance. It says, been trying to reach you, but there's been no answer. Give me a call because we have a special deal because you have such a great driving record. Now, part of me wants to email and go, what number did you call? But then by emailing him back, he knows that that's an active email address and he can sell it. So the best thing to do is just don't respond, just delete them. I get emails from PayPal, Bank of America, or eBay that say, or Amazon, that a purchase was made that I didn't make. It says click here to cancel it. Hit the forward button and send it to abuse@bankofamerica.com or paypal.com or whatever the offender is. If you know for a fact it's, for example, I don't have a Chase credit card. Why would I be getting a bill from Chase credit card? Abuse@chase.com. That will go to their security department and they will shut those guys down. That's how you properly respond to that. You can delete it, but you're not really helping society if you just delete it. So there's no way really to prevent it. The issue is how you react to it. So don't fall for it. When you do a Google search for a phone number for a company, specifically a large corporation and specifically in support, don't just take the number, Google that phone number, and a separate search. So you want to do two searches. In this case, with this company that came up with the fake invoice, when I searched the address, 200 other companies came up. And those companies, for the most part, are legitimate companies, and for the most part are not aware that they're sharing that virtual space with their own competitors or unsavory other businesses that they really wouldn't want to be associated with. So just a bit of caution, that's all. Yes, in the back.
What happens if they don't have a phone number? Because I see a lot of times when you go into Google something, there'll be several things with different, it'd be like google.com, but there can be some other stuff behind it.
Well, if you're searching for a legitimate company, it will have a phone number for support when it comes to support. If you're with Time Warner or Cox Cable or Roadrunner, there's a phone number. If you're with Gmail and you're a paid Gmail user, not a free Gmail user, the paid ones, there's a phone number. There's not a phone number for free ones because you didn't pay anything. You don't get any support for free. That will be an email address. Oftentimes these little chat boxes will pop up and say, how can I help you? How do you know if that's a real person helping you or if it's a scammer pretending to be a real person helping you, or a real company, not a scam artist? So if it's a large company like Intuit, Google, Microsoft, there's going to be a phone number, always. I don't know of any company that doesn't have a phone. And heck, you can Google me, you can find my phone number. So the trick is, again, I want to reiterate, when you're looking for support, this is generally where the scam occurs, is in a support scenario. And they'll sound initially like they are the real company. And generally, when you know you're being scammed is when they tell you they need some money now. They will connect to your computer for free, and then they will tell you you have viruses you don't have. They may even install viruses. Now you've got them. They may password protect your computer so that if you hang up on them and you go to reboot, it requires a password now to get into your own system. So you have to call them back and they say, no, give us the money, we'll give you the password. If you do a YouTube video search for Sakawa, there's some great investigative journalism coming out of Canada and England showing exactly how and why this exists and how the poverty and what it's like to live there. They're doing what they need to do to survive. I'm not feeling bad for them, I'm not excusing it. They don't have a lot to lose, quite frankly. There's almost no law enforcement to it. Any other, yes?
I think I got scammed by driver support. Have you heard of that?
Driver support, yeah, that doesn't sound legit.
Okay. And now I'm having a problem with my power lock. It says my power button is locked.
Is this a laptop?
No.
It's a desktop computer?
Desktop.
Windows?
Yes. Windows 7.
Oh, and the problem started after this encounter with driver support?
Yeah, but not directly after.
Why did you contact driver support? What led you to driver support?
They called me. I was frustrated with my computer, for one thing. I was having problems. And I had to get something done. And I got this phone call, and they said, do you have a problem? And so then they asked for some money.
So by coincidence, you were having a problem.
Yeah.
So that's a game that they play. I mean, if you contact enough people and say, are you having a computer problem? A certain number of them are going to say yes. One that comes to mind was, and I'm going to get back to you on this, but I want to tell this story. A guy was having problems with his cell phone, and he had talked to Verizon and was working it out with them, and he got a follow-up phone call from a company claiming to be from Verizon, a guy claiming to be from Verizon, which makes sense. And he said, I need to verify who you are before we can continue. Give me the last 4 of your social security number and your zip code. Well, what's the harm in that? He's not giving the whole social security number. He's not giving him his whole address. Seems like a safe thing to give out. And after the phone call, because the guy already had his phone number, he was able to go to Verizon.com, say, I forgot my password. He says, well, to verify your identity, please enter the last 4 of your social and your zip code. And once he did that, he could change the guy's password and take control of his account online. But how many calls did he have to make before finding somebody who went along with it because they had just spoken to Verizon? So it sounds like that's a similar situation where you were having problems, but there's no way they would know that you were having problems. There's just no way. I mean, unless you sent an email out or requested help. There's not a beacon, there's not a distress signal your computer sends out that says, save me. So now what do you do after the fact? My first question would be, did you use a credit card and pay for anything from them?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would do is I would call the credit card company, ask them to reverse those charges, and ask them for a new credit card. Just to play it safe. It won't cost you anything. The next thing would be to have the computer scanned and cleaned with antivirus, anti-malware from top to bottom. And while they're cleaning it, address whatever the problem is that you had and have it all buttoned up nice and neat from a legitimate repair place. And that could be, a referral from somebody you know. I avoid the big box stores because they tend to hire the cheapest help they can hire to make their profit margins higher, not the most qualified help. So the best thing is if you know somebody who does it for a living, or if you can get a referral from a friend who uses somebody, that's how I would find a computer technician. And just consider it, a lesson learned and relatively cheap lesson learned when you consider how much damage could be caused.
They still continue to contact me. I know I'm getting calls from those same.
Are you watching your credit card for charges?
They aren't putting anything on it.
Not yet. It's a matter of time. Yeah, once they have your number, the only thing you can do is shut that card down and get a new card issued and try and dispute the charges. What did they charge you out of curiosity? $200, $300?
$300.
Yeah.
Then they called back and they said, oh, for another $300 we can do something else that's better. I said, no, forget it.
So what I did is the guy who called me claimed he was in New York. And I said, no, you're calling me from India. I can tell. I have equipment here. I don't. He's lying. I'm lying. I said, you're calling me from New Delhi? Yeah, Delhi. Why did you tell me New York? Well, we have virtual offices. Stop. I have virtual offices all over the world too. That doesn't count. If you're in India, you tell me you're from India. Don't lie to me. Steve Wilson from India. Is that a common name in India, Steve Wilson? How much money do you want? $300. So what does that work out to in rupees? I don't know. What difference does that make? Well, I'm just curious because, how much does the average Indian make per year in rupees? And how does that, $300 is like a year's salary. You shouldn't be paying U.S. rates to someone who lives in India. You should be paying their normal rates. So, I had fun with it, but basically, once it's done, all you can do at this point is have the computer cleaned by a professional. That's what I would recommend. Make sure that it's virus-free. If you want to do it yourself, the only safe way I can tell you to do it yourself is if you use the restore disk. Back up all your data, wipe the computer clean and restore it back to the way it came out of the box. And then reinstall your printer, reset up your email, re-download all the updates, put your antivirus back on it, and then it'll be, but that's what a tech often that's what a tech does. A lot of techs these days don't bother fixing anything. They just wipe it clean and start over again. So it's not fun for anybody. I've got a computer at my office right now, been trying to fix it, and I'm just running out of patience. And I called the customer. I said, look, I don't know how much longer it's going to take me to figure this puzzle out, but I know if I wipe it clean and reinstall, it'll work. But I also know that it's Windows 8, There's a ton of updates that take forever to download and install, and then all the configuration changes that I have to do installing Java and Adobe Reader, reinstall and reactivate Microsoft Office, all the updates for Microsoft Office, the antivirus, the updates for the antivirus, all the browser add-ons and security. It's a lot of work, but I know when it's done, I've got a good solid foundation that when I give it back to the customer, it'll be harder for them to get reinfected. They can still do it if they really want to. If I chase the problems down one by one, it gets to be kind of like a game of Jenga, where you take the wooden block out and you put it on top, and then eventually it falls over. Sometimes when you fix one problem, it exposes another one, or there may be another problem that I just don't know exists until I give it back to the customer, and then they call me and say, when I bring up QuickBooks now, I'm getting this error. Well, I never brought up their QuickBooks. Am I supposed to check every single program and every option? It's not possible. So ideally, it's best to avoid this situation altogether, but I think that's your recourse at this point, is either have it cleaned or reset it yourself.
What about power button lockout? Have you heard of that before?
No, but there are registry settings that can be changed for security reasons. Like in corporations, they don't want the employees to make changes to the desktop machines, and they have something called a group policy editor. And if they modified or took advantage of that group policy editor while they were connected to your computer, they can prevent you from making any changes to your own computer. And again, that often comes back to you calling them back saying, I can't do this now, give us another $300 and we'll fix that for you. And in the meantime, you spent $1,200 on a $300 computer. It doesn't add up. So I encourage everybody, when you're calling someone you've never dealt with, or they're calling you especially, be skeptical. Don't want you to be paranoid, be skeptical. Yes?
Okay, in my experience, the problem is that it's so much faster to just wipe the machine, take off any data that people have, and put it back on. Of course, no one makes backups. I've had people come to me crying that, oh, these are the only copies of the pictures of god-awful stories of children, and you can spend days, literally, recovering files, because also half the time the hard disk is damaged.
Yeah. Yeah, you and me both, brother. Amen. Can I get a hallelujah? Here's the one I like. Your hard drive's gone. I'm going to have to replace it. But what about the stuff that was on it? Well, that's gone too. But I had pictures of my newborn baby. I just got back from Alaska. I don't think I'll be going to Alaska again. Oh, well, in that case, I can get your data back. No, it doesn't work like that. I'm glad you brought that up, because I brought something here for you. This is a hard drive. This is where all the data is stored on your computer. This is the inside of a hard drive. Would anybody in this room like to tell me how this works? Can you explain how this works?
Certainly.
Explain it.
Okay, you basically have the data in cylinders.
There's no, is this the cylinder right here? This piece?
Okay, we're going to do that.
No, I'm saying to an average ordinary
An
person.
average ordinary person has no idea how hardware works, nor do they.
Could you explain it?
With about 3 years of engineering, I probably could.
Thank you. I'm going to pass this around. I want you to look at it. Now, by exposing this to the atmosphere, I've actually damaged it. Simply by taking the cover off of it. It's not hermetically sealed, but it's got to be dust-free. Just the smallest particle of dust. Everything's microscopic. Those platters are where the data is stored magnetically. Now, we used to say to keep magnets away from computers. Doesn't really matter anymore. That was back in the days of floppy disks. Remember those? A magnet would erase it. But on a hard drive, there's one of the strongest earth magnets right inside of it. And it doesn't interfere with the data storage. However, you can bulk erase a hard drive with an electromagnet. And when I worked at Intel, we used to have a big electromagnet, and we would put the hard drives on it before we sent them out of the building, and it just scattered all the data. So it's still a magnetic storage medium. Now, when you have a laptop, your hard drive looks like this. And all this is, if I take the cover off, is a miniature version of the same exact thing. Now, this platter spins and this needle moves similar to a record. And again, you'll see fingerprints on that platter. That would ruin it. That platter's got to have a shiny, mirror, perfect finish. And it writes to both sides and often numerous platters. Because it is in motion and it's generating heat and friction, there is wear and eventual failure. All hard drives fail. Most of the time within the first 5 years. This is a solid state hard drive. It is in a state of being solid. The case that's around it, this is the hard drive. This is it. There's no moving parts. So not only is it faster, it's more reliable. You can put it in a laptop and jostle the laptop and all that stuff while it's on, and it won't harm it. But you never defragment a solid state drive. You never want to defragment memory, in your camera or in your phone. And this is what everything's moving to, solid state. And if you can afford it, they're a little bit more expensive. Your computer will be faster, and you'll be less likely to experience a hard drive failure. I think the lifespan on these is 74 years of normal data writing. That's not to say you shouldn't do backups.
You better have a UPS. A lot of the solid state drives will scramble if they get a power hit.
I've never experienced that, and the UPSs, the uninterruptible power supplies, are designed similar to the 9-volt battery that's in your clock radio. If you lose power, you want it to still wake you up at 7 a.m. when the power comes back on. And so a UPS is there to provide power if your computer's on during a power outage so that it can be shut down properly. If the computer is if power is cut unexpectedly, your operating system files can be corrupt. It can cause damage to the power supply or to the motherboard or anything connected to power. And it's very possible that it could.
There was a study done, and I forgot who did it, that every single solid state drive that they dropped power on was damaged except for the very expensive ones which have some protective circuitry in them.
I would ask them how USB solid state drives work if that's true. Because you're always cutting power to them when you're plugging them in or unplugging them. There's maybe there's special circuit. I don't know. I've not personally experienced that. I have never seen a bad solid state drive. I've been installing them for 5 years. Now that I've said it out loud, there was a question here?
Yes, sir. You talked about getting somebody to send you a hard drive or a computer that you want to restore. Once they send it to you, there's no way that you can do a backup on it. Is that correct?
If the hard drive there's a lot of different reasons data becomes unavailable. You know that song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover? There's more than 50 ways to lose your data, whether it's viruses, hard drive failure, controller failure, there could be accidental deletion. The list goes on and on and on. The one thing everybody who's ever lost data, they all have one thing in common. They didn't expect it. Because if they had expected it, they'd had a backup. Now, I don't know why in the computer world we have to use computer words. I think people, and this makes me a lot of enemies in my field of work, but I think people in my career like to think they're more intelligent because they understand computers. And we have to use different words. I don't know why. I just think it's an intellectual thing. Like I'm somehow smarter than you because I don't say the word copy. We don't make copies. We're making backups. It's a copy. That's all it is. Is it a paging file? Is it a swap file or is it virtual memory? Yes. We use a lot of terminology unnecessarily, and I think it intimidates a lot of people thinking it's beyond them to learn it because it sounds complicated, when in fact, there's often everyday English terms that we use that we don't know the meaning of. If I was going to hop in my 4x4 and hit the ATM so I could go rent a DVD to watch on my HD TV or a VHS, throw on my VCR or my DVR, a lot of these terminology, if I ask you to explain what those are, a lot of people can't explain it, but they know what I'm talking about. Like VHS. You all know what I'm saying when I say VHS. What does VHS stand for? Nobody shouted out confidently what the answer is. They're like, I think it's, but you knew what I was talking about. So don't let the terminology intimidate you. Video home system. If you have a scanner, you have a Twain driver, T-W-A-I-N. What does that stand for? Technology without an interesting name. Not a joke. Google it. I had some questions. You seem like a good crowd to try this out on. Computer Club asked me if I would talk about the dark web. You guys heard of the dark web? Yes. All right. There's the surface web. That's when you Google stuff and you're browsing. There's the deep web. That's where stuff does not appear on a Google search, but on a search within the site itself. Like if you go to the county's court records website, you would have to individually search my name at Maricopa County to find my court records, if any existed. And then there's the deep web. And the deep web is actually a place where hackers and people generally up to no good will use a special browser, often a Tor, T-O-R browser. And the websites have their IP addresses hidden, so they cannot be located where they're being hosted from. And it's often where credit card numbers that have been stolen are bought and sold. And a lot of illegal activities take place on the dark web. So there's the surface web, the deep web, and the dark web. And I was surprised that the Computer Club asked me to address this, because it's more of something that a hacker convention would be discussing. It's very technical. But if you hear that term, yes, it does exist. No, you're not going to accidentally stumble onto the dark web. You have to download a special browser and know exactly where you're going to get there. But it's not a rumor, it is a real thing, and yes, it does exist. Do we have other questions? Yes.
Well, two things. Number one is, we've all heard of card member services. Rachel from Card Member Services.
Yeah.
Well, I've got I received a prepaid gift card, and in order to turn it on, I had to call this 800 number on it. And sure enough, when they answered, it was Card Member Services. And I almost hung up on them. It turns out that the MasterCard gift card where you authorize the card, they answer the telephone, Card Member Services. And I almost asked for Rachel, but I decided not to.
Was that from a commercial?
The other half is, my credit card offers a one-time use credit card number.
Yeah.
And so I can go onto them, and I specify who the payee is, and then that number is
Can only be
for a certain amount
Can only be used once.
and used once.
Yeah.
So if it gets caught up in some,
It can't be sold.
fast-paced
Yeah.
count, I
Right.
can't keep continually dinging it.
Well, kudos to you, first of all, for paying attention.
Oh,
Because I had a call the other day, and they said, yeah, we're calling you from the Vehicle Warranty Department. And I said, the Vehicle Warranty Department of what company? See, I guess most people go, oh, okay. He goes, Vehicle Warranty Department. I go, yes. You said department. Department of what company? And he goes, I didn't name the company. And I wanted to say, when you get paid, on your check in the upper left corner, what does it say? But at this point, I said, I'm not interested in doing business with a company that calls themselves a department. Please take my number off your list. Thank you, and goodbye. And I hang up before they have a chance to say, yeah, but just hang up. I'm very polite, but I interrupt them. I'm gonna save you time. Don't read your whole script to me. I'm gonna talk right on top of you. Please take my number off your list. Thank you, goodbye. Click. And most of the time that will work. If you hang up on them, if you're rude to them, they'll often just keep calling. So what I do is I save their number in my phone. And the name I save it under is Do Not Answer, and I make a special ringer assigned to it called Silent. So when they call, I don't even know they called. It goes right to voicemail. And they can call me as often as they want. Phone's in my pocket. I look at it, it goes, oh, you missed 4 calls. Do not answer, do not answer, do not answer. Didn't miss any calls. So that's one way you can battle it. Now, if you want to help to stop these robocalls, Consumer Reports, Consumer Union, it's a great organization. I wholeheartedly support their efforts. They don't have any sponsors. You know, when they review products, they go to the store and they buy them. When they review cars, they buy them. And they don't disclose that they are going to review it. They don't disclose who they are. This has become such a problem with these robocalls. Oh, gosh, I'm trying to think of what the website is. No robocalls.org? Anyway, there's a petition you can sign. They're taking it to Congress. They're taking it to the government level. And I have to go to my Facebook page to find it. I've got it somewhere. And it's going to take me a while. I'm sure you're all interested in my Facebook page. End robocalls. So the website is endrobocalls.org. And you put your first name and your last name and your email address. You don't put your address or your phone number. That would be ironic, wouldn't it? This is real. And this is Consumers Union. And they want to lobby the government to pressure the phone companies to stop it at the phone company level so it never reaches you. Right now, the phone companies say they can't do it for a number of reasons. They have lots of excuses why they can't do it. And this has become such a look, when Consumer Reports is going to lobby the government for something, it's usually a pretty big issue. They want to get 500,000 signatures on this. It'll take 30 seconds of your time.
But politicians would be exempt.
I don't know about that. The political calls, there's something else in the news about that I read, and it's not coming to mind right now, about stopping those as well. And if you read, up here it says problems and solutions, I think they address the political calls, I think. I could be confusing it with another site.
I heard recently the legal issue on ending the robocalls has to do with a law that was passed in the 1930s when the communications networks were young, and there was an obligation to complete every call and every attempt if possible.
Yeah, I think it's illegal to spit on a sidewalk on a Sunday, but it's not really enforced. Yeah, so the only way that we're going to have change here in this country is political. And look, you don't have to go testify before Congress. I can just put your first and last name and your email address. You've done your thing. It's not a whole lot of effort. You've got nothing to lose. And it's a respectable company. You know, it's Consumer Reports, Consumers Union. So regardless of where you sit politically, it shouldn't fall on either side regarding, you know, those beliefs. But I'd like to see somebody do something more than what I'm doing, which is basically tell you how to deal with the calls. I'd rather you never got the calls to begin with. Then we can talk about something else.
They haven't added a new feature on that. If you register, at least I got, maybe it's because I subscribed to it, maybe that's the other reason. I was invited to join a panel where they want to start testing schemes for stopping robocalls. And so I'm on their list of, I'm to record all the robocalls I get for the next 4 or 5 days, and then they're going to send me a follow-up email later this week where I send in, and they will come back to me with either one, and some questionnaires, I'm sure, and information and transfer back and forth that will, either they will send me some equipment to tack onto my telephone line, or some software to use on my cell phone to help interrupt these calls.
Right, but the problem is for folks like me, I can't install any software on my phone, and I don't have a landline.
Yeah.
So the best I can do is put do not answer and set the ringer to silent. But that's the problem. There are software solutions that are trying to be implemented, but mostly on VoIP phones that are based over the internet, which most home consumers don't have, but many businesses do have.
Yeah.
That doesn't help us.
Yeah.
And there's some, in fact, ABC 15 just did a story on that a couple days ago in that regarding the robocalls and software. But it's got to happen at the carrier. That's where it's got to stop. Not on the software on your phone or on my phone or some equipment hooked up to your landline. To me, that's already gone too far down the chain. It should have been stopped much, much earlier.
But because the robocall originator is paying a pretty high price to the telephone company.
In most cases, the robocall company is not paying a dime. In most cases, they're utilizing the internet. And the phone calls are going over the internet. So that's how you can call India for free now.
Sure.
This created a whole nother problem. There was okay, so I imagine if you grew up your whole life with a landline and you knew just calling from Glendale to Mesa was a long distance call back in the 80s. You go back further than that. We had something called long distance. Do you remember it? So nobody thinks anything to say, just give me a call, my number's 541. Isn't that Washington? What's that going to cost me? So this, we'll call him an older gentleman who grew up with long distance, and now with the cell phone, really long distance doesn't exist within the United States. You're charged if you want to call another country. He was calling, he had dial-up service. And they said, oh, you're having a problem, you need to, I don't know why he's got dial-up, he's got dial-up. And he got a bill from AT&T, I think it was, for $8,000. And then the next month it was $15,000. And what was happening is his computer modem was dialing over and over and over, without him knowing, a long distance number that he didn't realize was long distance, because when have you ever heard a long distance number? But on landlines, it still exists today. And he had to contact the news agency, and they went on his behalf to AT&T and explained the situation, and they took away the charges and explained this to him. And now he's afraid to even use dial-up at all. One more point for broadband, It cracks me up when I talk to some people, and I haven't talked to anybody who's had dial-up in a long time. I go, why do you have dial-up? Well, I don't use the internet for very much. I just check my email, and that's about it. I go, well, the reason you do that is because you have dial-up. It's like saying, why don't you have a car? I don't go anywhere. No, you don't go anywhere because you don't have a car. So it has created some confusion. And until I read that story, it never even occurred to me that anybody was still using dial-up, let alone the whole confusion with long distance on landlines versus cell phones. So we talk about the robocalls. They're happening using VoIP equipment, and it's basically not costing them a penny. How are we doing on time? No answer? Are there any other, I guess we got all night. Are there any other questions? Yes.
My husband has a computer that he won't get rid of because of the hard drive is on there and he has information. How do I get the hard drive out of there? So he never has time.
Yeah.
Never has time to take the hard drive
So
out.
that's a very common
Is there a way
question.
to do this?
There's a very common question. I have a computer that's got personal data on it. I don't want the computer anymore. I'm happy to give it away or donate it, but how do I ensure no one can get my data back? Well, there's nothing you can do if you give somebody your hard drive, no matter what you do to wipe it clean. Somebody who's really dedicated to getting that data back probably can. So one of the things we have to our benefit is that nobody knows who we are or could care less. I mean, if you're a political figure or a celebrity, it's a different set of rules. So we have something called security through obscurity. Now, there's a couple ways to address this. One is you open the computer up and you look for this black box with a Phillips screwdriver in most cases, unless it's an HP computer, in which case you need to buy a special T10 Torx bit. And you find this black box. There's usually 4 screws that hold it in. Take it out, unplug it. There's 2 plugs. And stick it in a drawer as a backup, or take it outside when you're having a particularly frustrating day with your computer and smash it to bits with a hammer. The therapy value alone is priceless. I've got a video on YouTube where I show you how to do it using a Mosin Nagant rifle. Put bullets right through it. It's also very therapeutic, but not something you can do in city limits.
Those hard drives are also very hard to bend. I tried to break one, and the disc itself is very, very difficult.
Well, the cover, the top of it, where all the writing is very bendable.
Yeah, but the disc itself that all the information's on,
Oh, you're
very, very difficult.
well, if you don't have a lot of upper body strength and you don't have a bigger hammer, what you can do, we have an organization here in the Phoenix metropolitan area called AZ Strut. That's Arizona Students Recycling Used Technology. So the website is azstrut.org. So whenever you see that .org, that's a nonprofit organization. AZStrut, STRUT.org. Now they have drop-off points on certain days and certain hours of the week. And what they will do for you is they will remove the hard drive for you and even put it through a drill press while you're there so that it can be disposed of properly and to ensure that no one will get your data. So the drill press will do the job. And the computer itself will go to a good cause. They're teaching, I think it's mostly teens and preteens, how to fix computers and how to build computers with these old computers. They can't break them, right? Or if they break them, not much is lost in the learning process. It's a great organization. It's a tax deduction for you. And like I said, they will take the hard drive out if you request it when you drop it off. They'll do it right in front of you and destroy it right in front of you. So that's how I would do it. Or they'll just hand it to you. And you take it home and keep it as a backup. And then if you ever need the data on that drive, you can buy a little USB adapter, plug it into the drive, and plug it right into the USB port of your desktop or your laptop and access the data on it. So to kill two birds with one stone on that. Yes?
Well, there's a program you can buy that supposedly cleans it. Is that not workable? Doesn't it not do the job?
No, it does not.
Okay.
It does the job for somebody who's not a technician. But if you were a senator and you had some emails in your personal email to Benghazi.
Bring it out.
Yes.
Microsoft has a new president. Is all this stuff he's coming out with, is that his idea, or was that enforced or in the making before under Ballmer? Because it seems like a world of difference there.
Well, we had Bill Gates and then Steve Ballmer, and now we've got whatever his name is. What's his name?
Nadella, I think.
Nadella, that sounds right. For the most part, in my understanding, I don't know how Microsoft makes their decision, but I know that corporations in America are answerable only to the shareholders, not to the customer, not to the employees. And for the most part, it's how do we increase shareholder value or how do we get back better dividends? And it's all about making money. So Microsoft will be guided by focus groups and marketing companies that, for example, why can't you put Internet Explorer 11 on Windows Vista or on XP? It's not that it's technically not possible. Marketing says, let's give people a reason to upgrade. If they can get that on Windows XP, why would they upgrade? And so there often ends up being hacks that show you how you can do it and get around it, etc. So my guess is they have a board meeting, and the people on the board will vote based on advice from marketing companies or other contractors whose job it is to say, this is what everybody's doing now. The idea with Windows 10 is they want to give the operating system out for free, and they want to charge you for all the little applications you download and install, just like the phones, because that's been working so well for phones. And they don't want to make that operating system a barrier to entry that makes the computer too expensive to buy or that makes the latest operating system too expensive to acquire. So they want to give it away for free and get everybody on the same platform. Now, the bad part about this is if everybody's using the same thing, like we all drove 1978 Chevy Novas, everybody would know how to break into your car because they all break in the same. So there's a downside to everybody being on the same thing. But the upside is that ubiquity makes things easier when it comes to finding answers to problems or finding software. You know, one of the problems Apple faces is there's a lot of software that doesn't exist on the Apple side of things. Not because it's not technologically possible, there's just not enough sales in the world of Apple compared to the world of Windows. And my guess is Microsoft is simply being advised on how to move forward, and then they probably vote on it in a chairman, stockholder meeting, and I'm guessing that's how it's done. Yes?
Microsoft's Defender has been indicated as being as good as any other antivirus. Is that true?
Windows Defender is just a basic antivirus. The threats that are released today, less than half of 1% are viruses. It's mostly malware, potentially unwanted programs. PUPs. It's such a huge problem. When you go to download that free Java or that free Google Chrome or the free whatever, it's often bundled with a toolbar or something you really didn't want. And Windows Defender won't do anything to help you with that. So that's where you get into programs like MCSoft. I've been talking a lot about MCSoft, and I did a video on it, because PUPs are such a huge problem. And here's the thing that kills me. It just kills me. Free antivirus companies like Avast and Avira, every free antivirus company except for one, that's Bitdefender. Oh, and Windows Defender, so there's two, come with potentially unwanted programs in the installation. That's the very thing they're supposed to be protecting you from. AVG just renames, they rebrand the Ask toolbar as Safe Search. So they're actually deceiving you. The very companies that are supposed to protect you from these things are including them in their installation by default. And here's where it gets worse. If their software is being distributed from a third party like download.com or CNET or one of those websites, FileHippo, how do you think they get paid? They bundle more potentially unwanted programs onto that download. So now you have these potentially unwanted toolbars, browser page takeovers that are happening. And that's why I talk about a program called Unchecky. And it might have been somebody here in this group that brought Unchecky to my attention, and I love this program. It's free, it's for Windows. You go to unchecky.com, it's a very small download, and it doesn't come with anything you have to uncheck. You install it, and it will automatically uncheck the boxes to unwanted offers from the most popular downloads. So it's not 100%. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you about very quickly, because I see looks like we're getting ready to wrap up. There's another free browser add-on, particularly if you use Google Chrome, but I think it's available in Firefox and Internet Explorer. It's called Ghostery. Let me pull it up real quick so you can take a look at it. And what's fascinating about Ghostery is to see how many other websites are watching where you're going. It will display in the bottom corner right here, Ghostery will pop up and say what it's showing, and it'll block many of these because they can often track where you're going. They don't know who you are, but they know this IP address went to levis.com and it went to wranglers.com. So we're going to put a pop-up on your screen for jeans over at H&M or something. That's how the marketing works. Some of these websites, when you bring up some of these websites like CNN, watch what Ghostery does. Ghostery just freaks out. Let's go to CNN. Watch that bottom right corner when I bring up CNN. Again, the internet here is a little bit slow, but it'll happen. Boom! These are all the sites tracking you. Visual Revenue, Trust eNotice, Outbrain, Optimizely, Omni. Some of these sites are just data collection. You've heard of Big Oil? This is big data. They collect as much data on you and they sell it as much as possible. This is a huge, huge industry. We are in the information age. And this is a real eye-opener. Ghostery is free. Let me go back to Ghostery real quick. Real fast download. It attaches as a browser add-on. And it automatically blocks the trackers that it knows offer you no benefit. And then you can individually turn on and off tracking to certain ones, and it'll tell you up there in the corner. You'll see the little blue ghost up there, and it's telling you there's a number 2. I think you'll be quite surprised at how much of your traffic, you think, well, who cares what I do? Oh, there's money to be made. There is a value to how much your worth to companies like Google. Microsoft is able to offer, you know how Microsoft is able to offer Windows 10 for free? Because of the revenue they make with Bing. Windows sales has been declining. But with the search engine, they get paid. And that's bringing in enough revenue. Well, you've seen how big Google's gotten off of just search. Now look what they're doing. Yes?
You say it works on most of the search engines, Ghostery?
Browsers. It works on the browsers.
Right.
Yeah. I think, like it's saying here, it says it's installed. And then it's got it for business and consumers. And then it says see all versions. And I want to say it's for all the major browsers. I've got it on Chrome. I primarily use Chrome because I do a lot of videos with YouTube. And Google owns YouTube, and everything just works smoother on YouTube with Chrome. So yeah, it's for Firefox, Chrome, Opera, Safari, Internet Explorer, Android, iOS, I mean everything. I think that pretty much covers every browser. And it's completely free. You don't have to uncheck any boxes. It's completely safe. And it's quite eye-opening. And it shuts a lot of the tracking down. Now, if you want to know more, and I'm going to end on this, if you want to know more about why they're tracking you and how much you specifically are worth to Google, there's a movie, it's a documentary, it's called Terms and Conditions May Apply. If you have Netflix, you can watch it there. You could probably rent it from Redbox. Fantastic documentary that'll make you never want to turn your computer on again. The CIA says their job has never been easier. For all the money they spent on surveillance, it never occurred to them that people would voluntarily tell you who all their friends are, what they're doing today, what kind of car they drive, what their pets' names are, who their mom and dad are, when they were born, all right there for the taking. The CIA says their job has never been easier. So, not that we should all be hiding, but you should be aware of exactly what is paranoia and what's really happening. And it's interesting to know what's really happening.
How about AdBlock?
AdBlock, you'll also see that's on here, AdBlock Plus. The problem with AdBlock Plus is they take money from companies to get off of their list so their ads will still appear. That's why it's free. So it's good, and you see I use it, but it doesn't block everything for that very reason. Yeah, John?
AdBlock Edge. Go into the settings and disable that.
Oh, can you? So you can disable that on AdBlock Plus.
Using AdBlock Edge, it's easier.
Say what?
AdBlock Edge.
So still a version of AdBlock, or is it just unrelated?
It's a branch, and they don't take any bribes.
AdBlock Edge. I'll look into that. Thank you. That's going to wrap it up for me. Thank you all for seeing me tonight.